We are joined on the phone right now by Missouri Senator Roy Blunt from Washington. Senator, how are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm not sure I can top a stray dog story, but I'm glad to be with you, buddy.
It's tough. Now, I said you're in Washington. Is that accurate?
It is.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is. It is. I was in St. Louis this weekend. I'm going to be there again next weekend for the Martin Luther King event at Harris Stowe and a couple of other things. But right now I'm in Washington, and the big fight here is whether we want to continue to have almost 2 years of unemployment beyond I think this will be the 11th extension of an unemployment system that's supposed to be run by the states. And if you lost your unemployment in Missouri, if you lost your job today in Missouri, you'd have automatic access to 6 months of unemployment paid for in the way it's always been paid for by the state. And if the numbers are high enough, the unemployment numbers in your state, you get another 13 or another 23 weeks on top of that. But of course, we want to do the administration wants to do an extension of 90-day extension that costs $6 billion of unemployment for people now that would be having been almost 2 years on unemployment. It's not a plan, it's not a policy, and frankly, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so I know that this had been extended at one point during the recession to, what was it, like 99 weeks?
99 weeks is where it is.
So where would this put us with this extension?
This would maintain that. This would still allow people who'd been on unemployment but less than 99 weeks to stay on to have their unemployment check for the equivalent of about 2 years. And again, always need to remember that if you lost your job today, you would automatically get 6 months of unemployment in the normal circumstances. And then traditionally, if the economy really had a challenge, the federal government would step in and do another 6 months of unemployment, and then unemployment would end, and you would find whatever other program might be available to you to help with your bills if you hadn't found a job yet. But, you know, we all know that people who are unemployed, Americans, Missourians unemployed, want to find a job, but our focus should be on things that create jobs rather than things that extend a policy that doesn't really meet any definition of what unemployment is supposed to be all about.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly, and we've had some discussions along these lines recently on this program, but as you know, Republicans and people who take that position, as you have and as I have, are being labeled as insensitive.
Well, what's insensitive is not doing things to create opportunities for people. You know, if the president wants people to have a job, approve the Keystone Pipeline.
Why in the world hasn't that been approved yet? I'm so baffled by that.
It's just this war on fossil fuels. If you want people to have a job, don't do things that raise the utility bill in Missouri so that manufacturers go somewhere else. The war on coal. If you want people to have a job, don't constantly talk about raising taxes, even the minute you've made a tax agreement on what the tax structure should look like in permanent law. If you want people to have a job, don't come up with regulations that don't make any sense. I mean, this is if you listen to the debate the last couple of days, it's like the administration and many senators on the floor talking like they just arrived on the planet today, and somehow they have no obligation for what's happened the last 5 years of holding the economy back with things like not embracing more American energy, not embracing more opportunities for Americans to manufacture and make things. And that's where our policy and our focus should be. It shouldn't be on trying to sustain programs that clearly don't produce the result you want. It should be trying to come up with ideas that produce the jobs that people would like to have.
Here's what the president said about this, as you probably know. He held a news conference on this yesterday.
Voting for unemployment insurance helps people and creates jobs, and voting against it does not. Congress should pass this bipartisan plan right away, and I will sign it right away. And more than 1 million Americans across the country will feel a little hope right away. And hope is contagious.
Senator Blunt, one of the things that they've maintained from the beginning on this, I remember Nancy Pelosi, even when she was House Speaker, is that this is one of the key drivers to the economy because you're sending checks to people who don't have jobs and they're spending that money.
Well, and you're borrowing that money from somebody in China. I mean, there are really two different debates to have here. One is this a good policy? And I don't think perpetual unemployment checks is a good policy. Now, there are 50 other programs that people can look at that they may very well qualify for if they don't have a job. But what often happens is people decide, the job that's available is not quite as good as the job I had, but I'm taking the job that's available, and I'll work my way to find that better opportunity. And then the second question is, even if you think it's a good policy, there are a number of people who say, well, but we ought to pay for it. It's $6 billion every 90 days. We ought to pay for it by cutting spending somewhere else. But the administration, Senator Reid and others, aren't willing to do that either.
So if there are offsets, would that be something, because we talk about maybe offsets, something in the budget to pay for it, would you support it at that point?
I probably wouldn't, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't pass at that point. I think if there were offsets, there would be enough Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate that would likely go ahead and say, well, let's extend this for another 90 days. I think what the president would like to do is have this fight every 90 days, because it draws attention from health care, it draws attention from bad energy policies, it draws attention from other things that are holding the economy back. And I think what you're seeing largely here is let's change this topic to any other topic. Let's talk about the inequality in the economy. Let's talk, and there's no question that while the president's been president, poor people have gotten behind and rich people have gotten ahead. I think that's largely because of his policies. And so they want to change the topic. That's why I think we'd probably be talking about a year extension if they didn't like the idea that, hey, this could come up every 3 months. We could have this debate again about whether conservatives care about people in need.
Well, it's a political,
we do.
Yeah, it's there's no doubt that it works to their advantage politically, but isn't it, perhaps it's time, and I know that there are some conservative economists like Michael Strain at AEI that suggest one of the possible remedies to some of this is to put some things on the table that we haven't done before. So he's even talking about like cash bonuses that are paid with unemployment as a way to reward workers when they find work, things along those lines. Do you think we can ever get to a discussion on that? Is that a good idea?
I think that would be a good discussion to figure out how you get people to employment. That one of the great things about the early discussions on welfare reform was that it took into consideration the fact that your first job may not be as good as welfare. So what do you do about child care? What do you do about health care? What do you do to blend those things together? But this is not a discussion of that. This is like the 11th extension of a program that was never intended to last more than 6 months. And then if it was, the federal government would step in on the rarest of occasions and say, let's do another 6 months because this is a very unusual economy. The idea that you do this over and over and over again, year after year, that's not what this program should be about. Now, if the president wants to propose and wants to work with the Congress to find other ways to get people to work that involve some government assistance, I'm absolutely open to having that discussion and think that would head us again in a better direction. What people need is jobs. They don't need a perpetuation of something that makes it hard on employers. The federal government that has no money is taking away this obligation from the states that are supposed to collect money to pay for unemployment benefits. That's what you when you put money into that fund as an employer in the state, that's what you're doing. And so we'll see what happens here. But if the administration is unwilling to pay for this, it probably won't happen, and then we'll know that all they wanted was the political issue, not the solution. There's a path forward here that I probably wouldn't be part of because I think it's really a bad perpetual policy. But the clear way forward is to say, let's pay for this, and there are ways to do that. You could take the earned income tax credit. The administration says that there's a lot of fraud in that for people who have kids who don't even live in the United States that they turn in as U.S. dependents. So Kelly Ayotte and I have a bill that would require you to have a verifiable Social Security number for all of those kids you turn in as dependents in order to get the money. The score on that, supposedly it would save $24 billion over 10 years. I mean, there are ways to find money if you want to. And I think what we're going to see, Mark, is whether they want to find the money money or they want to have the issue.
Yeah. I think they want to have the issue. I think you probably know that. One other thing I want to talk to you about. Yesterday on the program, I had Senator Ron Johnson on. He's filed a lawsuit over the exemptions that congressional staffers and members of Congress can get because the president waved a magic wand on Obamacare. Do you support that lawsuit? And I know that you were even on the floor talking about Obamacare today, weren't you?
Well, I was, and I actually don't want anybody to be in these exchanges, including me, but I am in them. That's where I'm getting my insurance. But this is a plan that won't work, and you can turn the few federal employees against everybody else, and I think that's not, again, where the debate ought to be. It's what is wrong with this plan? The Senator Blunt and every other senator are getting emails and letters and texts every single day of people who are seeing their health care that they've had and depended on go away. This may be the greatest example in our lifetime of what happens when the government tries to do something that people should be able to do better for themselves. It's the biggest disaster for families and their health care concerns that I can imagine. And I'm going to keep talking about how this is affecting Missourians and try to keep the focus on that.
Did you make it to the Cotton Bowl last week or not?
I did not,
Oh.
but I listened to half of it in the car when I was coming back from a speech to the cattlemen at the lake to St. Louis, and watched the other half on TV, and it was a game.
Yeah, what a thrilling game.
A little ragged there at the end, but what a thrilling game.
What a great year for the football program. And you know what? The basketball team is not looking too badly right now either.
They're looking pretty good. The SEC suddenly looks better to Missourians than it did a year ago.
Funny how quickly these things change, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In politics as well. All right, Senator Blunt, always
Okay,
great to
buddy.
have you on. Happy
Good to
New Year.
talk to you.
We'll
Bye.
see you.